Hello, my name is Nathan Szymanski. This is my senior seminar presentation titled Human Destruction. It's based off of the book The World Without Us by Alan Weisman. As humans have done for centuries, they take and take without thinking about the possible repercussions. This is the same for wildlife, natural resources, and the environment. Eventually, with all the taking, they will have to give back with or without the help of humans. This may even mean giving the Earth back and humans ceasing to exist. Author Alan Weisman explains the process and timeline in his book, The World Without Us. Alan Weisman was born March 24, 1947, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. As a child, Weisman had a love for science, but later redirected his focus towards writing. As he grew older and started writing more, he was able to combine his love for both science and writing. Weisman received a Bachelor's of Arts and a Master's of Science degree in journalism from Northwestern University. He is taught at Prescott College and the University of Arizona. Weisman spent a lot of time traveling. He was able to learn about many different cultures and countries that he included in some of his books. He used that knowledge to write some of his best-selling books. Those books include The World Without Us, We Immortals, The American Cowboy, A Portrait, and Countdown, Our Last Best Hope for a Future on Earth. The World Without Us is written in an unusual format. Most books are written by either a third person's perspective, a character's perspective, or in an instructional form. This book, however, is written in both a third person and from a character's perspective. The format makes the book a little awkward to follow until you learn the style in which it is written. While it is not known how the human race will end or when it will end, we can be sure that this will happen unless we do something to stop it. There are many theories as to how it will happen: global warming, a nuclear war, or a worldwide pandemic that will wipe out the human race from the face of the earth. Some plants and animals will be able to survive all these situations through adaptation, while humans may not be so lucky. According to NOAA, in 2017, the CO2 in the atmosphere was around 405 parts per million. This is the highest level in recorded history, even more so than during the Industrial Revolution. In 2015, humans released roughly 40 billion metric tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. This is approximately 1.5% increase from 2016. The only time in our world history that nuclear weapons have been used was during World War II. The United States dropped 2 nuclear bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. During this attack, between 90,000 and 120,000 people were killed in Hiroshima, and between 60,000 and 80,000 were killed in Nagasaki. This is a total of 150,000 to 200,000 people killed with only 2 bombs. At that time, only 5 countries had nuclear weapons. Now there are 9 countries with nuclear capabilities. It is unknown exactly how many nuclear weapons are active around the world. With so many countries with the capabilities, nuclear war could easily bring an end to the human population. People would either die from the blast or from nuclear winter. In around 1347 to 1350, the Black Plague ravaged England and Europe. The plague is believed to have been brought to Europe and England by rats that were brought in ships and along trade routes. The Black Plague wiped out entire towns and villages and took the lives of more than 50% of Europe's population. Another plague that occurred, but is rarely mentioned, occurred in China in 1860. This plague later spread to Hong Kong the same way that the previous plague occurred. It was brought by rats This time, the rats were able to take the lives of approximately 10 million people. Since rats and other rodents are known carriers of several different diseases, it is highly possible that they could start a new plague, one that could potentially eliminate the human race. The diseases that took the lives in both of these pandemics can now be cured with simple antibiotics that were not available during the time of these outbreaks. Since these diseases mutate, a new strain could pop up that is resistant to all known cures. While certain parts of Weinman's book are able to be proven from past events and scientific testing, other parts cannot be supported. Many are aspects of the book that cover building collapse, overgrown cities, flooded subways, and bridge collapse can be seen in the abandoned cities today. If you look around at many of the cities around the world that have fallen on hard times, you will see abandoned buildings that have fallen into disrepair. If all humans disappeared from the face of the earth, it wouldn't take long for every city and town to look at the same. A prime example of this abandoned wasteland is Chernobyl. Chernobyl is located in Pripyat, Ukrainian, part of the former Soviet Union. On April 26, 1986, during a power failure test, the reactor at the nuclear power plant malfunctioned and subsequently failed, causing a massive explosion. The explosion released 14 EBQ of radiation, that is equivalent to 14 spent fuel rods. Without humans, nuclear reactors around the world would suffer the same fate. In the years following the incident, a further 220,000 people were resettled into less contaminated areas, and the initial 30-kilometer radius exclusion zone was modified and extended to over 4,300 square kilometers. It has been more than 30 years after the explosion. It is still not safe to return to certain areas. If all the world's 450 nuclear reactors were to melt down, much of the habitable land on Earth would become radioactive. The map included is part of the present-day exclusion zone where people are not allowed to enter because of the radiation. Flooded subway systems. After humans disappear, it would only take a few days for the power grid to shut down. One of the problems with that would be that the subway system in areas such as New York and New Jersey, they rely on the power grid to run the pumps to keep the water out of the subway tunnels. The tunnels under New York City pump out on average 13 million gallons of water per day. This water that leaks into the underground surrounding the tunnels and the Hudson River. Without humans, these pumps would shut down and the tunnels would flood in less than a day, depending on the amount of rainfall that the city receives. Since the evacuation of Chernobyl, many of the cities have fallen to pieces. The roofs collapsed, plants and trees are overgrown out of cracks in roads and concrete. The problem with most modern buildings is that they are made of concrete. On average, concrete only lasts 50 to 100 years without humans to maintain it. Strong winds will throw debris through windows of the buildings, and the rain will cause mold to destroy buildings from the inside out. According to a report done by Arizona State University Center for Problems-Oriented Policy, it states that the U.S. Census estimates the number of abandoned buildings was around 19 million at the end of the first quarter of 2010. If human race was to come to an end, that 19 million abandoned properties would be a drop in the ocean. Since humans are responsible for the destruction of our planet, it comes as no surprise that certain areas will never be the same. Wiseman stated that many of the rainforests that have been destroyed for timber and palm oil will never grow back, but instead a new forest of invasive plants that would leach the soil of all available nutrients. This is evident in photos taken on one of the lush Amazon rainforests. Since there's no trees for several hundred acres, the nuts that help reproduce the trees are unable to make it further into the areas for growth. According to an article in Reuters, human beings have destroyed as much as 4.6 million square miles of rainforest, about half of the original tropical rainforest on the planet. The idea that the rainforest could never regrow as long as humans are still around is contradicted by the same article on Reuters.com. About 135,000 square miles of original rainforested areas that are cut down by humans are growing back. Granted, that's only a little over 1% of the original rainforest, but it is slowly regrowing. With conservation efforts and protection, it could recover much faster. Without humans around, the regrowth would explode since there is no one to stop it or cause any further damage. Forest takeovers. Wiseman writes that within 2 decades, the swimming pools that the families once enjoyed with now being home to forests of oaks and elm trees. This would be impossible since it takes so long for these trees to reach maturity. The only tree that could possibly do this is the pine tree. They are able to grow. The maturity of an oak tree takes 20 years, and at maturity is only 20 to 30 feet. The elm takes 40 years to reach maturity, and at the height of maturity is around 100 feet. As you can see from this presentation, the world as we know it is in extreme danger. This danger is caused by the human race. If we want the earth to have left to our children, or even be able to be alive to have children, we as human race need to come together and accept the fact that our planet is being destroyed and work together to stop the destruction before it is too late. Alan Wiseman's book may give us a hint as to what is still to come if we don't change.